So the first keynote speaker today is our cybercon from the Netherlands. I said, how do you want to be introduced? He said, I don't care. So here is Hans, and give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Martin. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate that you are here after such a hard night, and you all survived Amsterdam, and I hope you liked it. This is new to me, because I started my career back in '86 as an artillery officer. And the artillery is these big guns, and I used to command a battery of the biggest guns, 203 millimeters, 90 kilos grenades. So be careful if you use these against me. All right. I'm commanding the Defense Cyber Command. You might have heard of it. It's the newest unit in the Dutch Armed Forces. And what I would like to do today is first tell you a little bit about security in a defense organization and how that evolved through the years, starting with the Roman Empire and right now. And just to give you a flavor of how security is part of our DNA and how the things you are doing actually fit in that quite well. And it's a new approach. I just thought about it when I prepared this presentation, but I think it's nice to hear. And then I switch to what we are currently do and give you some conceptual insight of what cyber operations mean and what it means in the light of a military operation. If you have any questions, please just step forward to one of the mics and ask. I do not need to get to the end of my slides. I just want to provide you with the information you would like to have. So don't hesitate, just interrupt me and we'll see where we get. I have until 9:45 and then we'll finish. So, easy. Yeah, that's me in uniform. Now I'm in civilian, but sometimes I have uniform as well, and that's the logo of my unit. Back in the Roman days, security was provided to single houses. Single houses had a fence around, and single houses were scattered all over the area. And the security was just this little wooden fence. There was one entrance, one connection to the outer world, and you can see that, compare that to a single computer connected via a simple line to the outside world, maybe with a modem. I saw some retro things back out there, so some of you still know what a modem is. And there is some security on the modem saying, hey, you cannot get in, but maybe not. You see here it's just open, but it's just one connection. So one single computer, not real security, and if you know your way, you can get in quite easily. And then we went to the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, there were these fortifications. Small cities, large walls around it, high walls. Again, just one connection to the outer world, but also some water around it. And you could lift the bridge over the water so nobody could get in. And you know all about the stories about enemies who tried to get in and get stuck and stayed a long time around that city, just trying nothing to get in and out. Sometimes enemies tried to dig a tunnel to get here or use a boat, but there were some additional measures over there. You can compare it to a simple little network of computers, these houses, maybe secured with a firewall, one connection to the outer world, some antivirus, and that's it. And then, First World War. First World War, we had these lines, the Magnot line, here, it's over here, and in Germany, the Siegfried line. Trenches all over, locks to try to prevent the enemy from coming in, but it was just one line of defense. One line of defense, and if you could get through that line, you would be in the area behind, and that was all open. Compare it to a larger network with many connections to the outer world, where you have firewalls, where you have antivirus, but only on the outside. And if an intruder gets into the network, everything is open. So you can do basically whatever you want as soon as you're in. And if you get help from an insider, then it's more easy, because you're already in. And these fortifications, or these lines, they were just secured from one side. So if you're in, you can get things out quite easily. So, and then the next step, the Cold World War, the Second World War and the Cold War. In that period, we had defense in depth. And defense in depth meant that we had a front line, we had some light units at the front line, and we had heavier units behind, and we had units in the rear. And you can see it here. There was a forward combat zone, a rear combat zone, and a rear land, the so-called communication zone. And there were also clear agreements between the Army Corps about the line in between. They created compartments, and they created a kind of authentication, if you would use current terminology. And basically, this is one large network. We secure the outside, and with firewalls, with antivirus, we maybe have some honeypots around, and we have some IDSs to secure the inside. Yeah, sure. What I do on a day-to-day basis in my job. All right. Do you mind if I take that question for a little bit later? Yeah? But I come back to that. And if I don't, remember me. And you can detect anomalies there. You can do something more in the military side, and of course in computer networks nowadays as well. And then it comes to the new threat. Where are we now, and where are we going? Well, actually, this is a picture when I was deployed in Afghanistan in 2007. And in 2007, we had this counterinsurgency war. ongoing there. And basically, all the allies were scattered around the whole of Afghanistan. We had presence all over with the ISAF, the International Security Force. And Netherlands was over here in Oersgan, and at that time we had the lead as Netherlands over the whole southern region. And I was military advisor to the commander of the southern region. But what you see is, although you're everywhere, the enemy, and basically this is Afghanistan, and all the red dots are attacks from the Taliban on this area. This is the area with permanent Taliban presence, and the red dots are attacks resulting in deaths in that period. So here in the southern area it was quite heavy. But what you see here is the enemy is already in. The insurgents are already there. You can protect whatever you want. You cannot protect the whole area because the enemy is already amongst you. It is the war amongst the people. And today we talk even about hybrid warfare, and hybrid warfare means that all instruments of power, diplomacy, information, military, and economics are being used to influence an enemy. And and basically an enemy tries to influence us on all those elements of power. But is already amongst us. It's already being done. You see it in, you have seen it in Ukraine. You see it right now in the Baltic states. So you see it in the Middle East, and that's exactly what's happening will happen or is already happening in computer networks. They are already infiltrated by criminals. They wait until there is an option to get information out or to get money out. So we have to find a way to defend ourselves better against enemies who, and in computer terminology, intruders, who are already in our system, because we cannot defend the system on the outside anymore. And that is just something I do not have a solution to yet. I think nobody really has, but it will be our challenge for the future, and maybe something for you to think about. So let's go to my daily work. Let's go to what the defense organization, the MOD in the Netherlands, is doing in the cyber domain. Actually, there are 4 roles we have to execute. 4 specific roles we have. And the first role is protection. We have to protect our own networks, our own systems, our weapon systems, our sensor systems. It is about, as for any other company, ensure that nobody gets in and that we protect our data, our information. And that is not only our usual day-to-day network, but those are also our secured networks, our isolated networks, our networks within the weapon systems, networks within our sensor systems. It's everything. And we have, as it is described in the Dutch cybersecurity strategy, where it's clearly described everyone is responsible for his own security. It's in the defense organization, in the MOD, it's exactly the same, but in addition to that, we have created a CERT, DevCERT, Computer Emergency Response Team, to have a look at what are the threats coming up and how do we react, and provide advice to the owners of the networks on how to protect themselves, what measures to take, and to analyze if there are any intrusions. And of course we got attacked. Of course we have incidents, as everybody else. The second role is the intelligence role. We have a military intelligence and secret service, Defense Intelligence Secret Service, DISS, and they operate on basis of the law on the intelligence services. And they make use of the digital environment to collect information in order to protect the Netherlands. This is very strict regulated. Very. All right, I'm sorry. I need to stay here a little bit because the camera doesn't see me otherwise. Are these lines for that? Okay, great. So, they didn't tell me before. Okay. So there's very strict regulations and it is controlled by our parliament. And then the third role is the law enforcement role. We have a military police who looks after criminal soldiers and after criminals who do something to the MOD. And they do as well the border protection. And you can imagine that that has, with identity fraud and so on, that has some cyber component as well. These are roles which are performed on a daily basis because there is a law for it. It's self-protection, it's the law on the intelligence services, and it's the police law. And it is basically a task compared to civilian tasks. Everybody protects itself. We have also a general intelligence service for the state security, and we have the police. In addition to that, we have, of course, military operations. We are military, and it's our task to protect the homeland. It's our task to contribute to world security, and it's our task to support, if requested, one of the other maybe military or civilian organizations. And you have a question. Can you put on the microphone, because I think not everybody can hear you.
It's not working. So I have a question. Do you have a bounty program in the Ministry of Defense? What bounty program?
A bounty program? Yeah, sure. No, we don't. No.
Because it definitely makes sense. So if you are like, if you would like to be secure, then somebody should check your security from outside.
Yeah, sure.
It can guarantee it.
Yeah, we have a responsible disclosure program.
Doing this approach, and this approach like proves themselves. Google proves that they are like the most secure company from IT.
We do not have a task in checking other companies or other organizations. We, as a defense organization, have a task in protecting ourselves and everything which is related to the defense organization. Of course, there is in our first main task, protecting the Netherlands soil and the soil of our allies. You can imagine that there is a role in protecting also in cyberspace, in the digital environment. However, and I will come to that in a later stage, the armed forces will only operate after a decision of the government. And a decision of the government to use armed forces is only taken after an armed attack on the Netherlands. And an armed attack in digital space is defined as an attack to the Netherlands with comparable damage as a conventional attack, which means death and means severe physical damage. And even then, even after that, it is up to the government to decide how to react. So it's not that the armed forces are the firefighters, are the digital firefighters for the Netherlands. We are armed forces, and we work on the basis of the law, Article 97 and Article 100. Article 97 says there are armed forces, and Article 100 says we operate on a decision of the government, and we will report that to the Parliament. There's a question back there.
Yeah, I think what you were saying is that you're not getting any incentive for people to report actual problems in the network if you don't have a bounty program. Because if you don't have a bounty program, there's also no way to follow up whether or not you have solved the problem. And I think in the USA, for example, there are people reported what's in the website and the network for the Pentagon, and it took 2 weeks. And they still didn't fix it, and maybe if they had a bounty program, the individuals would have been paid.
Well, we comply to the responsible disclosure program as the rest of the Dutch authorities do. So you can see that on the. Yeah, as I said, you can read it on the website of the National Cybersecurity Center, and that is what we use. It is for the whole government, and of course, if some people come to us and say, "Hey, we found something," we will see on a case-to-case basis what we do. That's very clear. But we, as an armed forces organization, we need to keep that below the level of real communication. So, as an armed forces, we have also a task to support military operations, and that is what we do with the Defense Cyber Command, supporting military operations. And actually, what does that mean? That means that cyber is an integral part of all future operations. We cannot neglect it. That we do have digital systems, and that an enemy has digital systems. And as we fight against conventional systems with maybe conventional arms, conventional weapons, we should do that to digital systems as well. And those are not the conventional networks, not the internet. Those are weapon systems, those are sensor systems, those are military systems and military targets. And one additional role is here that, of course, there is a need for coordination and facilitation of all cyber activities within the armed forces. And that is something I do as well. So, cyber operations, what does that mean? The employment of cyber capabilities with the primary purpose to achieve, only 5 minutes left? Okay, half. All right. With the primary purpose of achieving objectives in or by the use of cyberspace. And this is the concept. Let me explain. The coherence of military power is based on the coherence of a physical component, the weapon systems we have, a conceptual component, how do we operate, and a moral component, the will of our soldiers. And if you break that coherence, there is no military power anymore. And how do you break that coherence? Well, if you attack objects, physical objects, the weapon systems, or you attack persons, the soldiers, or you attack the psyche of those soldiers, because then you get into the will. And how do you attack the psyche? For example, via information operations. Provide them information which is maybe not true. This is conventional. This has been done for ages already. And of course, this influences each other as well. And at the end, there is an effect, and there's disruption of the three components of military power. New is that you do have cyber identities and cyber objects. And if you attack those, then you will have an effect on the other physical objects and a disruption on the components of military power as well. Well, what are cyber identities and cyber objects? Well, it's described here. The physical dimension, a person with his psyche, and an object, for example, to keep it simple, a phone, and it's not only the object, the phone, but the SIM card is another object. Those are physical things. And if you break them, then they won't work. But a phone, and I do not have to tell you, I think, but a phone is as well a cyber object. It has a operating system, it has a MAC address, it has an IMEI number. The SIM card has an operating system. It has apps on it. Do you know what apps are? Oh no. Okay. All right, so, and all these things are cyber objects. And if you disturb them, if you make sure that they do not work, if people who use them cannot trust the cyber object, then you disrupt in a military operation the military power. And the other thing are cyber identities. Your email account, your Twitter account, your telephone number, and so on, the way you identify yourself in cyberspace. And if you disrupt those, then you achieve as well an effect in military power. So that's basically what we would like to do in a military operation to military targets. And that doesn't mean that you only need a piece of malware or a live hacking. You need more. You need cyber capabilities, which is a coherent set of humans with brains, with creativity, people who really know what they're talking about, who really know what the enemy would like to do, and really know what we want to like to achieve, what the effect is, what you want to achieve in the military operation. Of course, you need technology, the technology to create cyber capability, to test it. You need a cyber lab, a cyber range, an environment where you can test. You need a lot of intelligence, because the large difference between criminals and military in a military operation is that criminals attack 1 million computers at once. They don't care. While military need to be very precise. You're only allowed to attack that one target. And you're only allowed to do so if it's a military target. So you need to know where is it, what is the system, what operating system has it, what version, what patch, and so on. Question over there.
I'm from Ukraine, and I have a question to you regarding the slide before. Do you have systems that monitor social networks? Because very often we see situation right now on the east of Ukraine, in Russia as well, when the military people make selfies with techniques, with machines, firing machines, with shooting airplanes. Do you have like systems that monitor social networks, search for meta text with geotext location as well? Do you have like systems that monitor your own soldiers? Do not publish selfies with passports on the wall and so on. How do you use it?
A lot of what you're asking is a task of the intelligence service. And they operate, and I'm not going to tell you what they do, but they operate on basis of the law of intelligence services in the Netherlands. We have very strict laws on that. And they might be more strict than in other countries. For example, we are not allowed to just get data from the internet and absorb everything we can find. So, yeah, we have systems in place, and we look what is happening, but within the strict rules of our law. So intelligence is important, and the question is clear. The question is, what can you collect in intelligence? Well, we can collect depending on the situation. And if it's in a military operation, we have specific rules, and if it's not during a military operation, prior to a military operation, we have other rules. Furthermore, you need a process in place. Very strict process in the development of your capability, testing, planning, decision making, and at the end, reporting. Documenting as well. Because at the end, in the Netherlands, if the military armed forces does an armed attack themselves, there is a prosecutor who looks whether that was reasonable and whether that was okay to do it that way, and whether you did all to prevent collateral damage. Damage to people who were not involved in the conflict. But there's one thing we know. Cyber is part of future conflicts. And cyber, we will only know when things are stopped to work. But fighting in the fifth domain, next to air, land, space and sea will be part of any conflict now and in the future. And that brings me to the end of this presentation. Are there any questions? I can't imagine.
Maybe too many questions.
Oh, well, I'm happy to take any questions, even many questions.
I have a question concerning.
You tried my phone should work now.
Okay. I think I have enough voice.
Okay. Shout.
Who is actually responsible in the military for, military is very aware of safety, and military standards are about safety.
Yeah.
And a lot of your weapons, I assume, are also now connected and interoperating via a network. How do you, who is responsible then to bring, to align this, the security aspect and the safety aspect? Is this a department or is this?
No, it's not my department. It's we have a security safety authority in the Netherlands who is responsible exactly for these things you mentioned. So they set the cadres for how we implement security and safety in the armed forces. And others, every commander is responsible to implement those rules.
Just stand up.
Okay. I have a simple question. In physical warfare, not every country is developing and providing their own bullets and guns, right? Is it the same situation in your department? Can it happen that the other guy has the same stuff you have, and then it's just one who has the higher version or the higher patch?
Yeah. Yes, that can happen. Well, the question was, in conventional warfare, not everybody creates his own bullets, but you just buy them and you have the same on either side. Is that the same in warfighting in the digital domain, whether develop yourself and does the opponent has maybe the same systems, and is it then a weapon race, basically, who has the best systems? Yes, it is. It's very clear. At the end, it's about security. It's about, and that is a primary role. It's our task to secure our own systems and to secure the Netherlands. Any more?
I have one more question. You said during a military operation, you only allow target military objects.
Yeah.
Critical infrastructure of an enemy would immediately be military target. So, for example, is it
Not.
in your capabilities also to attack critical infrastructure, energy providers, and these kind of things?
Well, it is in the law of warfare. It's clearly described what are military targets and what not. Basically, civilian infrastructure is not a military target. In some cases, it can become a military target, but that is very rare, specific rules. And you see a development there as well that you do not want to attack those.
But you need to have trained these capabilities because if you're in a warfare, then it's too late to train yourself.
I'm not going to talk about what we're training for. No.
What do you think about encryption?
Encryption. Yeah, very good. Yeah, important to secure yourself. It is important to have good encryption and to use good encryption.
And doesn't it in any way hinder your work?
No, not my work, because I'm not looking after information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it.
May I ask one main question?
Yeah, you can.
You said your enemies and your allies. as we know from NSA, Snowden stuff, is it a clear border between enemy and allies these days?
No, we trust our allies, and we see that something is happening in the digital environment, which is some kind of getting used to it. It's a new environment, and we need to get used to what we're doing, and sometimes we do things we maybe shouldn't have done. The other thing is that everybody immediately believes everything which Snowden has said, but there's very little proof to many of those things. So I think we are all at the beginning of a development, and the development, the technical development, and your work as well